minute or so. All right, so welcome to Senior Parent Night at Franklin Community High School. We're glad to have you guys all here. We're going to go through a lot of information tonight. So like I said, we will be sending this out later, recording this so that if you do miss something or you just forget what all was said, need a refresher, we'll be sending this out as well as the PowerPoint that we're going over. And that way you guys have all the information as you need it and as your student needs it as well. So we're just going to go ahead and get started going over all the information. I am Jennifer Rodman, one of the school counselors. I have letters L through RI. So tonight we're going to go through different plans that you could talk about with your child, different options for college information, go through some information. All of this will be kind of discussed, talking about college, some about careers and the armed forces, how to enroll in Parchment, college applications, scholarships, kind of general information about all of that. And we'll all introduce ourselves as we go over different slides. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide, and we'll start with Mrs. Murphy.
Yes. So can everyone hear me okay? Yes. Okay. Well, I am Mrs. Murphy. I'm one of the counselors. So we are just going to kind of like Ms. Rodman said, just go over the process, and we meet with all of our seniors individually to go over their plans and go over the process as well. This is just a very broad overview. So the main things I'm going to cover today are just the kind of some basics of the college application process. And I apologize, they are outside my house mowing the lawn, so it's really loud. So sorry about that. I'm gonna wait a second until they're done. Okay. So anywho, so one of the main things I wanted to talk about is the Common App. We have had some students that have already started the process. It's really early, so if you haven't, that is perfectly fine. But one of the main ways that students apply is through the Common App, and we've attached a link there. The nice thing about the Common App is there's over probably 1,000 now schools that use the Common App, and you only have to fill out one application, and it allows you to enter all your information, and it goes to all the different schools that you're applying to. So that is a perk. You don't have to fill out all your demographics, all of your information multiple times. So if you are applying to multiple schools that are on the Common App, you only have to do it once. So it's really nice. It will mention on there all of the different application fees for each individual school. The nice thing about September coming up is there's something called College Go Week, and there are a lot of schools that offer free applications during that time. They usually on their website will list the Indiana schools and what the week or the month and what they're waiving. We checked this morning and they haven't updated that yet, but we can share that link out if they end up doing that. But there are a lot of schools that waive their application fees in September, which is really nice because some of them can be $50, and if you're applying to multiple schools, it can add up. One thing we just wanted to mention, when they fill out the application, they will they're required to put who their counselor is, their email, and then who they want their teacher recommenders to be. And then the counselor as well as the teachers will receive an email, and it allows us to click the link and enter all the information that we need to. So that's the nice thing, is we get notified once that happens, so the student doesn't necessarily have to do anything else. I will say for the teacher recommendations especially, they will most of them, if they're been there for a while, will ask for something called a brag sheet. If not, it's similar to a resume. So it is much easier to write a letter of recommendation if you have kind of a history of everything the student has done. The teacher or counselor knows what they've done at school, but we don't know what they're involved in necessarily outside of school. So it's nice to have all of that in one place, and it just makes writing that letter of recommendation a little easier. So as far as the schools that don't use the Common App, there are some that if you just go directly to their website and it'll say application, apply here, and it'll either take them to the Common App or the school may utilize just their own website. And that's fine too as well. I mean, it is nice if you're applying to multiple schools on the Common App because you only have to do it once. But if you just go to the school's website, they usually it's very user friendly and they'll tell you how they apply. So not everyone uses the Common App, but I know most of the Indiana schools now do. And one deadline that we always tell students to remember is November 1st. A lot of the Indiana schools have a November 1st merit-based deadline. So if you want to be considered for any scholarships just based off of merit, so your GPA, your grades, it's November 1st for especially Butler, IU, Purdue. So we always encourage students, if they're not entirely sure if they would qualify, it's always good to have your application in by November 1st. Fall break's always kind of a good timeline to aim for. And then we always get asked this question, so we thought we would put it on there. But if students took any dual credit classes, whether through Ivy Tech or IU, while they're at Franklin, after they graduate, they will have to contact Ivy Tech and IU and have their transcripts sent to the college that they're going to. So we aren't able to do that on behalf of the students. So the students do have to do that on their own. The nice thing is if you took classes at IU and you're going to IU, you don't have to do that. But if you want the college that you're going to accept those dual credit classes, you will have to request those transcripts yourselves, but after you graduate. And then one other way that students will have their phone's going off, I'm sorry. One other way that students will have to send their transcript, if they apply to a school that doesn't utilize the Common App, then there is a website called Parchment. And I think I recently sent out the instructions, but they just have to create an account on Parchment, and that is how they request that is how they request their transcript. So it allows us to get notified and we upload their transcript and it gets sent to the school. The nice thing about that is students can see when they requested the transcript, when the counselor uploaded it, and then when the college downloaded it. So if you apply to a school that's on the Common App, you don't have to use this Parchment website. But if you apply to a school and they just have their own application and it doesn't require you to necessarily upload your transcript, then that is how you will want to request it, is through Parchment, and that way your counselor can upload it.
Hi everyone, I'm Christy Williams. I have the end of the alphabet, seniors RO through Z. I wanted to talk a little bit about SAT and ACT tests. Because of COVID, and I think a lot of students have had issues testing over the last couple of years, many colleges and universities have switched to test optional. So that means that your student can take the SAT or ACT and still submit those scores if they'd like to. They all did take the SAT at Franklin as a part of our state required accountability test in the spring. So everyone does have SAT scores on file, which is nice. But if you aren't sure if your school requires them, I would say look on the admissions websites. I was looking at IU and Purdue again, just to kind of see what the standard was for this year, and they are still test optional. That doesn't mean that they will be in the future, but for this for this application season for this year's seniors, they are test optional. So usually what I recommend is if you did score high on the SAT and ACT, and we can help your student determine if they did or not, then I would recommend submitting those test scores. If they didn't, then without submitting those test scores would just mean that those schools would look more at the GPA at the other parts of the application, maybe a writing sample if that's included, to determine admission instead. If you would like your student to take the SAT again this year, they can. We do not offer it on Saturdays at Franklin, but every other school in the county rotates different Saturdays where they offer those tests. So we linked in here, you can see the SAT and ACT websites are linked. So your student would log into their student account and then walk through the steps to register for a specific test date of their choice. And we also wanted to remind you that if your student is a 21st Century Scholar or if they're on free and reduced lunch, we have waiver codes that we can give you to help to pay for those tests on those Saturdays. So please have them reach out to their counselor if they think that they would qualify for the waiver, and we're happy to give them that information. We also linked SAT and ACT practice tests here in case you would like to have a better idea of how the questions are asked on the exam. So the content is similar, but the ACT has a science component to it while the SAT does not. But these practice tests are really more about the wording, the way that the questions are worded, the multiple choice setup of the questions to give your student a feel and practice. So then that way when they sit down for the test, they know what to expect. So that's a nice thing to take.
Hi, my name's Brian Powers. I'm the student's last name's E through K counselor. So I'm here to talk a little bit about financial aid. The FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, that's the main thing that your students will need to fill out if they want to get scholarships, financial aid, grants, anything like that. So that must be sent in to determine their eligibility for that. Like it says on there, the 21st Century Scholars, this is required for them. So if your student is a 21st Century Scholar, then they're going to have to fill that out. It's one of the requirements on there. It's not available until October 1st, so you can't even fill it out until then. I know I talked to a couple people who said that they have filled it out already. A lot of times they have to go back in and refill it out or adjust the dates or something. But that's something that we can kind of go over a little bit more if that time comes, because we do have access to see who's filled it out, who hasn't filled it out, if there are any errors or anything like that. And we go through kind of the end of the year and check on that. You have to submit a FAFSA for each school year. So you have to redo it. You know, even once your student goes to college, you'll fill it out every year. And I think the earlier you the earlier you submit that, the better, because a lot of colleges have a certain amount that they can give out in financial aid, and they can only do, like, once they give out that amount, then it's done. So the earlier you get it in, the better. And if you see kind of down below, the third one from the bottom, there's a FAFSA completion night. So because of the early fill in, we have a FAFSA completion night on October 5th. It's 5 to 8 at the high school, and it's an open house style. So if you can't get there till 7:30, that's totally fine. Basically, just bring your information and we'll send kind of the information out that you would need. Taxes, things like that would be very helpful that you would fill out. And there will be professionals there from InvestEd, which is a company that we work with. They do great work. They've got a scholarship search engine on our website. They'll also be with us on September 14th, and we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second. But the FAFSA completion night, you can get it all taken care of, and that's on October 5th, and that will be at the high school as well. And then the financial aid awareness night is on September 14th at 6 p.m. So that's when InvestEd will come talk to you about our about scholarships, about the FAFSA, about what to expect, how to pay, different styles of paying for college, and all of that. So they're very good, very helpful, and they have tons of great resources on their website that really helps out a lot with that. And then there is a link to that on the bottom of that slide, and it's also in our guidance website as well under scholarships. And if you want a link to that, just email one of us and we can send that to you as well. And then for college visits, your student can attend 2 college visits without it really docking their attendance. And basically there's a form in the guidance office that you would fill out and have them sign when they go on the tour and do that. A lot of colleges through the Common App Actually, if you go, like when you put your put the school in there, so let's say you put Indiana University, they would have on the Indiana University page a virtual tour on there. So you can take a virtual tour. It also links on that site to their website and also to something really handy called College Navigator. And basically you can look through that. It tells you all kinds of information about the college, from the student faculty ratio, the enrollment, to financial aid, how much most students get, to tuition that you can see. And, just kind of looking at that, just seeing in-state tuition, out-of-state tuition, what kind of tuition, how it's gone. There's a net price calculator on there as well. So you can get on there and kind of see, my students anticipating on spending 4 years here. How much is that going to cost me total? How much do we have to find? How much do we have to get together for that? So it's really good on there. What you would do for a tour is, this is how I've helped a lot of students and how we all help a lot of students in the guidance department, is basically just type the name of the school you want to tour, Purdue University tour, and it'll take you to the website and you can schedule a tour, whether that's with a group. They have like weekend tours or something. And you can also I would recommend contacting, like if your student is interested in a specific field, contacting that kind of department and seeing if there's a way you can come in and schedule a time to meet with them, talk to them, or even shadow some classes if that's something that's available. Just anything that's going to help make your decision a little bit better, a little bit easier, and kind of see, hey, is this the right fit for me or not? So those are all things to do. And then just make sure you have some questions to ask when you're on the college visit. And we've kind of set a link of examples and things to ask on there. So.
All right, so I'd like to talk a little bit about scholarships. Those will be available more in the springtime than they are now. One of the main ones that was offered just up until this week, I think, was the Lilly Foundation Scholarship through the Community Foundation. But as we go through the fall semester and we approach Christmas time, more and more scholarship opportunities become available. So we will publicize those as we receive them. You will see them in the weekly guidance news and notes that we all send out to parents if you have an email on file with us, and to students to their email address. We will also be posting them in the counseling office. We have a large bulletin board in there, and then a table where we'll have copies of any paper scholarship applications. And so when I'm talking about different scholarship opportunities, there are a couple of different types. Mrs. Murphy already talked a little bit about the merit-based ones. Those are not ones that we offer. They are ones that the schools, the colleges and universities offer from them directly. And then there's also athletic scholarships at D1 and D2 schools. But really, our focus at the high school are local scholarships through our local community foundation, through local businesses, private organizations, and just different people that reach out and provide us with those opportunities from year to year. If you would like to, one thing that is so underutilized are scholarship search engines, because people think that when they're searching in these search engines for scholarships, you're competing with people across the country. But so many people don't take advantage and take the time to actually apply for these. Millions of dollars go unused every year. So not only are there going to be the local opportunities that we post and we advertise in our news and notes, but we will also advertise some from the scholarship search engines as well. We listed a couple down below. There's so many more. There's even apps that you can download to search for scholarships, but a couple of reputable ones that we wanted to mention. So InvestEd has their own search engine on their website for scholarships. They also come in and present at our financial aid nights. They are a fantastic resource to help you figure out how to pay for college, how to navigate all of the financial information that you receive from college. If you're not familiar looking at it, it can be really confusing. The other one that I wanted to mention was through College Board. So we talked about College Board when I was talking about the SAT, because that's the company that runs the SAT tests. They also, I think it's called Big Future. They have another whole section to their website devoted to scholarships, future planning, thinking ahead. And so on there, you can search for scholarships, and you can also answer questions for them and walk through different steps to qualify for some of their scholarships potentially too. We also linked in this presentation, and we'll send it out to our website that has more information about scholarships. It goes a little bit deeper into some of what I was talking about today. So hopefully that can help you. If you or your student have specific questions about scholarships, I'm the scholarship chair, so I know quite a bit, and I'm happy to answer any questions for you. Some of the scholarships will be copied, printed in the office. Some will just be purely online if they send me a website link for someone to go and fill it out online. So we will try to keep that information very organized and very clear, so then that way your student can spend really from probably early December through April applying for a large variety of scholarships through us. So. And then also just wanting to mention information about if you're interested in playing a sport in college. So a lot of times your student would have to register through either the NCAA clearinghouse or potentially NAIA clearinghouse. These are organizations where they have to be certified as a high school graduate to be able to play a sport their freshman year of college. So this won't apply to everybody, but if you are interested and maybe have been talking to coaches or will be talking to coaches at different colleges and universities, then we would strongly recommend registering through one or both of these, depending on what school you plan on potentially going to. So we can help you figure that out. Your coach that you may be talking to can also help you figure that out and might likely point you in that direction. But overall, the biggest difference between the two, when I think of NCAA, I'm thinking of mostly bigger Division I and II schools. So these are going to be the IU, the Purdue. NAIA, these are schools that are specifically affiliated with this organization. They're going to be smaller Division III schools. Not all D3 schools are NAIA, so it's really just looking into the athletic section on a college's website to figure that out. And we can also help with that too. The registration info for the NCAA is linked at the bottom, but there are a couple of notes on there. If maybe your student has already been ahead of the game and registered through NCAA, we have a lot of our coaches and our athletic director talks about that over the years at their different sports meetings a couple times a year. So you may have already registered, which is great. We automatically send transcripts, usually at the end of junior year and then end of senior year automatically. But if a senior or a junior registers at a different point throughout the year, then I get notified and I go in and I upload the transcript. So then that way the proper organization can review their transcript, make sure that they are good to go athletically for freshman year of college. So.
All right, so I want to bring up our college and career fair that we are hosting here in about a month. So we've talked a lot about college and the process for college, but a lot of our seniors will still not be 100% sure of either where they want to go or what they want to do. So we like to offer some opportunities for them to come and talk to different college representatives, different local businesses. So we're going to host some time for them to come and talk with them, get some information, just really get some time to figure out more of what they want to do if they aren't sure, or even if they are sure. It's always nice to talk to representatives just to get more information, if they have questions, or just, get them excited for the future. So we'll have a bunch of different college reps, armed forces, different apprenticeships, businesses. So really we'll have all the seniors come down during their coach time. They will walk down there. They'll have about a half hour down there, and then we'll have some other students joining later. If they are a C9 student, so they do not come into the building until after that 10:20 time. So we have set aside the last about 20 minutes or so for them. Once they get into the building, we'll remind them that they can come down and come and talk with other businesses and things like that as well. So we want to make sure they have plenty of opportunities to go through that. So we'll send out a reminder closer to that date to remind them that that is coming up that September 29th that morning during coach. For 21st Century Scholars, so that is my area of expertise. So I'm just going to go over a little bit of that. For seniors, they do need to end and graduate with at least a Core 40 diploma or higher, and as well as a 2.5 GPA or higher. We can keep track of that. If they have questions, if they're on track, they can ask their counselor, making sure they're on track for that, as well as their GPA. I believe they can see some of that in PowerSchool. They also must complete all 12 Scholar Success activities. So there's about 3 a year that we've tried to encourage them to do each year. But if they haven't completed any, or if they're behind, that's okay. They just have to be done by the time, I think even by like June 30th. So they even have a little bit of time after graduation. Just as a reminder, the 21st Century Scholars does pay for tuition for school. So if they are planning to go to college, or even if they're not sure, it is really vital that they are on track for that they complete all of those requirements. If they're not sure if they have an account, or if they're not sure of how to get into it, or they just don't know where to go, I've linked the ScholarTrack website here. So it goes into detail of how many they've done. I can also see how many activities they've done. We are going to meet October 27th. We have a rep coming in to go over all of those requirements, as well as just some other information that they will really need finishing up their senior year. Any questions they might have as to how to get that moving forward, what to do in college, what the college requirements might be. So we'll go over that and hopefully check off most of those requirements that date, if not finishing up the last few by the time they graduate. And as Mr. Power said, just a reminder that the FAFSA is a requirement. So they have to file that in order to get the 21st Century Scholarship. The last thing for all seniors, no matter what pathway they're on, we have officially moved into graduation pathways. So some of you may have had older students that graduated through ISTEP, but we are no longer under the ISTEP umbrella. We have officially moved into what's called graduation pathways. So with graduation pathways, hopefully your counselor will either have talked to you. I think we talk about it pretty much every year and just remind them that this is upcoming, but we'll definitely, if they haven't heard that, they will hear that in their senior meetings that they are going to meet through or have met through already. So there's 3 different boxes to check off for this. So each of those different colors is different boxes. So the first box, that green, is just their diploma, whichever diploma they're on, whether it's a Core 40, academic honors, general diploma, just the minimum 40 credits. They have to get those in order to check off that box. The second box that we have implemented now is the senior project. So you may have heard your students talking about the senior project. A lot of them are completing it this semester, but they may not be. They may also be completing it next semester. So they will have either a study hall or doing it in coach. Most of them will have study hall or the community service class that they're meeting with Miss Weedman very regularly, if not every week, then every other week, to keep up on the requirements. So she is kind of the expert there as far as the senior project. So that is a requirement. And she's, I think, met with most seniors that are completing it this year. So that is one requirement that we are still working on improving, and hopefully kids have a idea already. If not, then hopefully they will get an idea here soon. And the last box is what's called post-secondary competency, which is just a fancy word for some kind of test or a certain diploma. There's a bunch of different ways to check that off. So a lot of students will have taken the SAT, ACT. If you have a certain score, they can check that off there. Same thing with ASVAB. So we have the ASVAB coming up here in September. So students have been signed up for that if they have not met that box. So they need a certain score there. If they're on track for an honors diploma, if they've completed C9 2 years in the same program, or if they've taken enough dual credit or AP classes. So if they have not met one of those, their counselor will talk with them and make sure that they are on track to check that box off. So that one's the one that's probably the most confusing for kids, but we talk about it a lot and we try and keep track of it and make sure that they are on track to complete that in one of those many ways. If you have any questions or if the kids have any questions, just email their counselor, which I've attached all of our letters and our emails so that if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to all of us. We're happy to answer any questions either about our own students or if there's the areas of expertise like the scholarships or financial aid, things that each of us kind of have more expertise in. So we will send that out so you have all of our emails. If you want to keep up with us, we have some social media we try and post on there just to let you guys know what we're doing, just so that you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and just keep up with what we're doing either there or on our counseling website. We do post things through there. We also send out weekly guidance news and notes. So we try and keep you guys updated on important information like tonight. And that's pretty much it for general information. Like we mentioned before, either your student has been met with or will be met with individually to go over all of this more in depth. I know we also are having a senior meeting in Coach so that all seniors are together, that Mr. Ahaus and the assistant principals and us will be at to also go over general information and then go into more depth in our individual meetings as far as their specific questions or concerns or anything in their individual case. So if you do have any questions, you can put those in the chat. We'll stick around for a few minutes or you can, and we can address any of those questions now or otherwise. Thank you for joining us tonight. We will be sending this out later. So if you do have any questions, can't remember anything, we will be sending this out. So otherwise, yes, we can talk more about senior projects. So let me go back to that slide. Senior projects are very new. I'm not sure what all questions there are about senior projects. I know kids are very concerned about senior projects and it's very new. So they're wanting to make sure they're doing the right thing. Kids can do a lot of different ideas. We've had kids do volunteer somewhere and they created a whole social media campaign for like the animal shelter, or they created a coloring book and distributed it out of all the Franklin landmarks. The idea of the senior project is that they benefit the community, those around us in some way, and that takes 20 hours. So the first step is just to put together their proposal with Ms. Weedman. So she has a whole document that she will go through and put together the proposal. She'll walk them through what all that is. It's really the focus is finding a need in the community, which can be pretty much anything. I've seen students focus on kind of any area that they are interested in. So the goal is to find something not that they hate doing, but they actually like doing it, whether it's kids putting on basketball camps, that kind of thing, or I had a student who was interested in photography and provided photography like senior sessions to those who couldn't afford it, or maybe wouldn't normally take pictures. It can be a lot of different ideas. So the first step is the proposal, then it's getting the hours, having a mentor walking them through it, and then finally putting all their information together and presenting it to a small, like 3-person, 4-person panel, just going over the information. Any other questions? Oh. I think now one of the other counselors can correct me if I'm wrong. You can only apply either if you're going for the next year, or you can apply and defer for up to 1 year, I believe. So if he is not planning on going straight to college, then he would wait to apply. Yes.
Yes, that's correct, Jen.
Thought so. All right. I'm going to stop the recording. If there are any other questions, like I said, just email us, let us know. Yes, that would be for scholarships as well.